turnout at a plenary. It's becoming more better attended as years go by, which is good to see. We run these plenaries. There's 3 of them this year. There's another one tomorrow, introducing the small animal practice and the equine practice exam. And then there's obviously the big plenary at lunchtime on Saturday as well. But these 2 plenaries early in the morning are more for us, the board and council, to introduce concepts and also to get feedback from the college members as a whole. So feedback is really, really important and we appreciate it. So we're really here to just present a few little ideas what the board is doing over the next little while, but also to get feedback, and I would like to entertain any discussion and questions, so we'll leave plenty of time for questions. Before I start, in case you don't know who I am, I'm Muurlink. I've been the Chief Examiner from the college for the last 3 years. In a few days I'll be handing over to Carolyn Guy, who is on the PowerPoint, and there's a mission of this PowerPoint. Carolyn Guy has been the Assistant Chief Examiner for examinations for many years now, 5 I think, and she will be taking over as the Chief Examiner after the AGM today. Unfortunately, Carolyn had work commitments and couldn't be here today or for the rest of Science Week, so I'll be acting in as Chief Examiner until she's able to take over. So that means there'll be a little bit of a reshuffle on the board. Carolyn's spot as Assistant Chief Examiner, examinations, will be taken over by Dr. Sharan Radel. Sharan's sitting in the front row here and will help me with any questions. And then we've got Dr. Peter Bennett. He's been the Assistant Chief Examiner for Training and Credentials for 4 or 5 years? 3 years, for a long time. Yes, 3 years. So Peter also, so the Board of Examiners is broken into those 2 groups. We work as a group, as a whole board, but we do distribute workload regarding training and credentials, more or less to the Training and Credentials Committee, and examination-related issues go to the Examinations Committee. I think the vast majority, if not all the board members, are here as well, and we'll mostly be here for all of Science Week. We'll wear these little things around our necks so you can identify us. So if you have any other feedback or comments you want to give, by all means come up and see us over the next 3 days. So moving on, the plenary today will focus on initiatives and visions of the board. So it'll just a little bit things we've done over the last few years to try and improve things. And also some of the things we see coming up in the near and mid-term with changes that may happen within the college and examinations processes and training processes. So this is the vision of the board. There are a few definitions. There's one on the website as well. So ultimately, the goal of the board and the goal of the college, I think, as a whole, is that the examinations process will be sustainable, of high quality, valid and fair. I don't think anyone could disagree with that. I think that's the underlying principle of the college, examinations processes. So we want to achieve that. We want to have engaged examiners, and we also would like the examiners to be knowledgeable about examination theory and practice. And we'll come to this a little bit shorter in the presentation. We've put a lot of effort into supporting and training examiners over the last, say, 3 to 5 years. So there's been quite a lot of initiatives and money spent by the college supporting examiners. And you know, we definitely would like feedback on this as well, and we do receive feedback on this, I think it's something that we would like to continue. I'll talk about the processes that we go through later. Also, importantly, candidates, we need them to feel that they are supported when they need support, and we have many avenues where we go about doing this, and also that the candidates and the community as a whole feels that feel confident about the process. And lastly, if we do all the other right, we want the fellowship and membership examinations and the fellowship and membership qualification be well regarded within the veterinary profession and by the public. So, one of the issues that both council and the board spend a lot of time thinking about is the sustainability of how we are doing things. It's a real problem for us. We recognise, with the exception of some college staff, which has grown a fair bit in the last few years as our numbers and workload increases, but the vast majority of the work done by the college is by volunteers, vast majority. Everyone on the board, all of council, all examiners, all CEC people, who review credentials or review subject guidelines, everything's done by volunteers. And for most people, this is not part of their day-to-day job. So we're doing it after hours or around our other jobs or lives. It's a huge commitment. It sets our college apart, that we can produce these examinations and do the workload that we can by volunteer workforce, we think is truly reflects well on our profession. But we do need to make sure that what we're asking is not untenable and supported adequately. So the Board of Examiners does not set exams. The Board of Examiners is appointed by the college, and it is an oversight organisation or group that oversights the examination process. So there's a common standard that's applied to all exams. If you wish to deliver an exam or be part of that group, we need to have some sort of key fundamental basic standards. But it's the chapters, and we come back to this a lot, it is the chapters that actually set the content of their exams. They also set the standard to a large extent of their exams. And the board obviously can't adjudicate on matters of content because we have a diversity of experience and disciplines represented on the board, but we certainly don't have this specific subject expertise. And that's important. So it's really, really important that the chapters take responsibility for the content and for helping their examiners develop their exam, because that's ultimately what it is. So as far as sustainability goes, this slide, chapters provide examiners, and that's something that I would ask all of you to do at your chapter AGM. Start thinking about examiners for next year. The examination process is a yearly cycle. It is a very slow, long process. Examiners really need to be in place very, very soon after Science Week, if not at Science Week. So this year for next year. So timely submission of examinations is a problem. We have definite timelines, well communicated. The timelines are presented to all examiners, all chapters, all chapter executives, and published on the website. There is a real need for timely submission of examinations because it is impossible for the checks and balances that are essential to deliver consistent, fair exams that are not subject to appeal. We need to do a series of reviews, and these reviews take time. Remembering also that all the reviewers of the exams are volunteers. So none of us on the Board of Examiners can devote 2 weeks of our lives to reviewing because all the exams came late just before the exam. So it's really essential that we have timely submission of exams, allowing sufficient time not only for the Board of Examiner review, toing and froing sometimes, but also for chapter CEC review. I really ask that you respect that because it is probably one of the greater impediments that we have to overall improving the quality of the exams is late submission of exams. So we've invested quite a lot in training of examiners over recent years. There's lots of material on the college website. There's also, we started, I think it's now 4 years ago, examiners workshops. So obviously our resources don't permit that every examiner gets invited to every workshop. But we have workshops in February every year. Initially they were multidisciplinary workshops where examiners from a range of subjects came through. There were some didactic lectures either by Dr. Liz Norman, an educationalist from New Zealand, or in one case, Sharan. So we do some formal training as well as assist the examiners to prepare their exam. And we'd like them to have an exam at a high level of completion at the end of the workshop. I think the feedback from the workshop has generally been extremely good, in my opinion. There's always room for improvement, and we are trying to improve them and respond. But I think it has been a really good initiative by Council and the Board, and I think it has definitely changed the standard and tone of the exam over the last 3 or 4 years that this has been happening. Last year we had not only some chapters do their own exam writing workshops, and last year we had an exam writing workshop for 2 of our larger disciplines, small animal medicine, small animal surgery, on top of the general examiners workshop. And these also went well, but this coming year we probably will run the workshop as one even larger group in one location. We think the cross-pollination and the less impact on people's staff and Board of Examiners time make it probably beneficial to have everyone in one location. So there will be an examiners workshop again this year. It will probably be larger than we've ever had. We haven't fully decided, I don't think, Mandy, have we? The exact numbers we're going to invite, but it may be in the realms of 75 examiners. So it's a very big financial commitment and a lot of effort put by a lot of people to try and help examiners. So that's one of the things we're trying to do to improving sustainability. And we shouldn't forget the college office in the role. All of you have been examiners or candidates. In fact, all of you have been involved with the college. Will have had interactions with the college office, and I'd have to compliment again our examinations officers. We've just recently appointed an assistant examinations officer, and all the other college staff that are just absolutely essential. But so we have tried by improving the workflow in the office to assist examiners and improve sustainably in that way. So some of the initiatives we've done recently, as I've just touched on, we've just recently appointed a second examinations officer, an assistant examinations officer, Linda Kennedy. She's here, so some of you will get to meet her. She's done a great job and adjusted to the role really well. All of you will know Robin Pettigrew. She's been our examinations officer for quite some years now, 5 I think. She's grown well into the task and does an exemplary job for us. The organisation involved with delivering exams is just mind-boggling, and so those people help us a lot. And then the board also, on council supported, and the board has now a project officer doing projects not only for the board but also council, I think, the college more widely. Rachel Can, who's here at the front, who's one of her initiatives that we're doing right now is recording some of this presentation and some of the others we'll have. And so Rachel Can is also slotted into the college office environment and assists the board and council and the college as a whole with specific projects, and just having people to assist the volunteer group to keep on track, get projects done and delivered. Rachel's done a great job. So there are other initiatives as well, but I'll just limit it to those that are more directly involved with the board just now. So just quickly, just to give you some idea of some of the projects that have been done by the board recently. So there's an oral examination video. Oral exams are really challenging, at least candidates fear them a lot. And so one of the things that Rachel did was develop a video to try and show them what it's like, how it's going to be and how it goes through the process. So that's on the website. We've done a number of board examiners projects, and one of which was perceptions of membership. Those results have been discussed previously. We've also had another project, also managed by Rachel, with Board of Examiners members on the committees, to look at evaluation of examiner agreement and consistency, and those we haven't time right now to go through with the findings of everything, but those results of all these projects will be committed. We've just targeted some things that we strategically thought we need to look at. We've got some website changes, and the other, obviously a big project that's been done by the Board of Examiners and Council has been website examiner workshops, which we've already discussed, so and website changes. So one of the big things that we are in the process of undertaking is there was a historical and still current CESG structure. The CEC reviews examinations and standards and subject guidelines. So we've got a new system. We have introduced it in some chapters. All chapters are encouraged to consider this. We would like, and we'll soon move to this new system. It allows a bigger distribution of work, the workload amongst the bigger group. We've had a plenary just on this subject previously. We won't harp on it too long, but I'm prepared to entertain questions at the end, perhaps, or even now. So the advantage of some of the advantages of this new structure is that we try to engage a bigger group of individuals within chapters to contribute, and that we have a system of rotating people on and off, so that younger examiners come on, are mentored by older examiners in the group, and then rotate off. And similarly with the Standards Committee. So the Standards Committee shouldn't be overlooked. The Standards obviously writes the subject guidelines and oversees that process in membership and in fellowship, not only subject guidelines but also training programs. So it's been an attempt by the Board of Examiners and the college as a whole to try and improve things and workloads within the chapter, and also have better mentoring and bringing on and rotating off of people within the committees. It's been a mixed result so far, to be honest, but we feel we have to keep moving along this process, because in many chapters the current system is poorly sustainable. It's not easy to sustain. So this has been introduced. This has been announced previously and discussed in a plenary as well in previous years. So we're in the process of moving towards all fellowship candidates having to have two supervisors. There's lots of good advantages to this. It's also how it's done with most of our colleagues' chapters overseas. I think it's got lots of benefits, and we just have to move this way. The discussion's being had, the decision's being made. So I don't think we need to harp on that, but during the introduction, that there is some leeway and flexibility on how we're going to allow this to go, and the Training and Credentials Committee is more than welcome to discuss arrangements to end this phasing period. But over time, I think all fellowship candidates should have 2 supervisors, and it will be required from next year for new training programs from next year. There's some more detail on that there. So one of the biggest projects undertaken by the college, I think it may well be the biggest financial expense by the college in one project ever, has been the introduction of this electronic results and reporting system. It was introduced last year. It worked fairly well. I would not say fairly well is probably an understatement. It worked extremely well last year. It worked really well again this year. There still remains, as any complex software package, there are a few minor bugs and it needs further refinement, but it is delivering the results we expected of it. And there are many advantages to this system. It not only allows us to monitor the exams process more easily, it also encourages examiners to think about and discuss variances in the way they're marking questions. It's seen major improvements in that regard. And it also flags to us early if there's questions that are not performing well, and we can deal with problems. So it's got major advantages in that. It's also how candidates now interact and get their results tomorrow. It's been a major investment for the college. It will need some ongoing investment. And generally speaking, I think certainly from the Board of Examiners' perspective, it's been excellent. From the College Office perspective, it's been excellent. And I think the feedback from the examiners has been very good as well. You know, every new system will have some glitches and problems, and there definitely have been with that system as well. But for such a complex system, it's performed remarkably well, in my opinion. So this has been a change. It was introduced for this year. It's the assessment of supplementary examinations at membership level. So currently, if the average for the practical and oral, the written and oral exams is over 70%, it's a pass. But if it's less, then they may be offered a written exam. And the difference in policy comes for candidates who have been offered a supplementary exam. The following year, they may just run up for their written exam. It will be averaged with their other component from the year before. So it's been, I think, a good initiative, and it helps. It reduces the effort involved by some candidates, and also it averages their result better. We feel it's a fairer system. It doesn't affect a large proportion of candidates, but there have certainly been some cases where, on overall assessment, there have been some less fair results, and we've gone towards this system, and that's been introduced and used this year for the first time. It doesn't affect a large number of candidates, but we think it improves the fairness of the system. So just some projects that we are in the very early stages of contemplating. There are working groups for the next 2 or 3 projects that I'm going to talk to you about. It's one of the things Rachel will be helping us with. So the first one, just briefly to discuss, and obviously, like any new introduction, is slightly controversial. At this stage, we're only canvassing the options. My personal view is it's probably inevitable that we end up going this way. There are lots of advantages. If you can just one of them, and there's many, this is just one of them, is that if you can imagine the amount of effort required to scan and photocopy the hundreds and hundreds, thousands of pages without error in the office every year, and this could avoid that. That's just one of the advantages. There's many others. So, look, it's self-evident. It's becoming more common in universities. It's obviously, the advantages are mostly, I think, pretty obvious. There definitely are some disadvantages and some risks. The most, we've done a survey at this stage, so roughly 30% in favour, 30% not in favour, and the rest are in the middle somewhere. But I think over time, I think people, as they graduate from universities and be exposed to this type of examination process, they'll become more confident. Our candidates as a whole will become more confident with us. And I think it's not too many years away that the college seriously has to consider introducing this. Obviously, there are concerns about students who may feel technologically challenged, who are. Obviously, there's issues if there's failure in the systems, the dysfunctions, and some students feel that they will be adversely affected because they can't type as quickly or the noise of typing. And there's many more. The feedback's been quite diverse. Nevertheless, there are plenty of candidates who have poor handwriting, but so we've got to weigh everything up. So I think, and I'll be very interested to hear any comments on that. I think that's we're moving forward, but at least going to investigate the options. We are quite a way off making a decision one way or the other. One thing we are going to do next year, examination venues. We're in the process, I would say, and not too far away, where we'll end up having to offer the written exams in one venue. There are lots of reasons for this. Inconsistent experience of candidates over multiple venues remains a problem. There are many good venues, but it is hard always to predict what's going to happen, and the only way we can even things out is to have everyone in one venue. For next year, we're going to try and reduce the spread of places where written examinations are held, and we'll have one in each Australian Capital Territory and 3 venues in New Zealand. And we'll have a very restricted number of international venues. We do have problems with examination venues. You just have to take my word for it at the moment, but it's probably not, this current system is not sustainable from a fairness point of view. Obviously, we recognise this means candidates have an extra expense, and we have to balance that up with the fairness issues of the diverse experience of candidates. So it's not decided at this stage, but my expectation will be that within a few years, we will be moving towards one examination venue for written exams, pretty much as we do for the oral exams. So we're also looking at a couple of other things. We have a big project. There has been thought given, and I know this happens in colleges and overseas, whether all examination components should be delivered within one examination period. So again, we've got a working group looking at the pros and cons of this. This is a major cultural shift for the college. It certainly hasn't been decided. At this point, we've got a working group, committees established, which will look at the pros and cons, and we welcome feedback on this too. So what I'm talking about is that instead of having the written exams and a month later we have an oral and practical exam in one venue, that we would have all components of the exam over a short period, perhaps a week, maybe less, delivered in one location. There are some significant advantages to this. There are lots of impacts from this, and we've already worked through some of the issues in our minds, but we haven't come to a decision. But you know, would this be immediately before Science Week? Would this be moved a little bit further out from Science Week so that allows a little bit more time for adjudication of problems in exams before results are released? We have an incredibly tight timeline from oral exams to ratification of results, release of results to the awards dinner. It's a very, very tight timeline. So we need to look at those timelines and think about them. There's lots of things to consider. The impact on Science Week of examiners not wishing to stay on. There are many, many things we're going to have to factor into our thinking on this. Again, I welcome now. I'm going to have a few minutes for questions and comments. And like I said, it's not decided at all, but we're going to put some effort into considering it. And then another option, another issue that keeps coming up in feedback, and we're going to look at this as well, we already have, and we're going to look again, is that in fellowship examinations, there is enough, as it is in many overseas colleges, the theory or written paper 1 component is delivered a year early in their training program. So they do that sort of halfway towards the end of their training program and do the remainder of the exam at the completion of the program. So what we're really looking at is that should we be offering fellowship candidates the opportunity to sit written paper 1 earlier in their training program? It'd be an option, not a requirement. So that's going to be looked at as well. Again, has lots of logistical problems. In our context, we have some other requirements that overseas colleges don't have. For example, all fellowship candidates have to be a member, so most candidates have to do a membership exam during their fellowship training program. There's lots of issues. It sounds simple, but there's lots of issues to consider. Some of our subjects only get examined every second year at fellowship at membership level, so the logistics of doing this and having it done fairly is not as simple as it first sounds. But we will look at it again, and also welcome comments. Anyway, now we come to discussion. So we've got our 2 assistant chief examiners and myself here. Carolyn Guy, the incoming chief examiners, an apology, but I welcome any questions or discussion.